A terrible struggle. Lil Scrappy's journey has been characterized by uncertainty, dread, and times when optimism felt like a far-off dream. Only a few days ago, doctors were hesitant to show their faces as they told his family that recovery wasn't guaranteed. Fans were left stunned and glued to their screens, anxiously awaiting updates on the condition of their beloved rapper. His mother was devastated and had been pleading for prayers, while close friends were afraid that the worst was coming as social media was flooded with messages of concern, rumors, and even whispers that Scrappy might never be able to return to the life he once knew. However, now everything has. The news has sent shockwaves through the industry, leaving everyone wondering how this happened, what led to this miraculous breakthrough, and most importantly, what does this mean for Scrappy's future? We will delve deeply into the details of Scrappy's incredible turnaround, the emotional reactions from his family and fans, and the behind-the-scenes drama that nearly changed everything, so be prepared. In a dramatic and unexpected turn of events, doctors have finally given the go-ahead. Scrappy's condition is improving, and he is proving to be stronger than anyone previously thought. It all began late last night when a close family friend who had been by Scrappy's bedside leaked a mysterious message online. Miracles happen when you least expect them to. Keep praying within minutes. Little Scrappy fans had spent sleepless nights refreshing their feeds hoping for good news. Grim updates and his family's tearful pleas had led to an atmosphere of hopelessness, but now everything had turned upside down. The rapper, who had previously been clinging to life, had suddenly shown remarkable signs of improvement. Late last night, a close family friend who had visited Scrappy in bed posted a mysterious message online that read, "Miracles happen when you least expect them." They continued to pray, and within minutes, people were speculating that Scrappy was waking up and that the doctors had changed their assessment. Although there were no official confirmations yet, the excitement was growing. Early this morning, however, the breakthrough moment arrived when Scrappy's mother, Mama D, who had been silent for days, finally posted a video. Her eyes were bright crimson. My baby is fighting. He's stronger than they thought," she exclaimed, hardly suppressing her emotions as the doctors informed us that Scrappy's had a genuine chance of recovery. This time, her voice was quivering, but it was out of relief rather than despair. After days of despair, hope had returned, but behind the scenes, the situation was more complicated than it appeared. Although the doctors were hopeful, words of pleasure and incredulity were shared on social media by celebrities, fellow rappers, and fans. Scrappy's loved ones would have a difficult time getting him back to full health because he was still in danger. The emotional roller coaster had been unbearable just 2 nights ago. His condition had been getting worse, and some doctors thought his body might not respond to treatment. The hospital room was tense, with hushed conversations, silent prayers, and an overwhelming fear of losing him forever. Estranged wife of Bambi Scrappy had been experiencing emotional difficulties and a difficult journey before his hospitalization, but now that she was by his side, seeing the monitors, it didn't matter. She reportedly told a friend, "I don't care about anything else. I just want him to be okay." While his mother, Mama D, was a formidable force who had fought valiantly to secure the best doctors, the best care, and the best prayers. At one point, she even got into a fight with hospital staff, calling for more forceful therapies. According to an insider, she had yelled at a doctor, "You don't give up on my son," no matter what the statistics showed. She wasn't mistaken. The way that Scrappy was retaliating had even astounded the most seasoned medical experts. In the early morning hours, Scrappy, who had been unconscious for days, suddenly began to move. It was only a slight twitch of his fingers, but it was enough for the doctors to notice. Considered it a sign that his body was finally responding, and by midday, even more progress had been made. Scrappy had opened his eyes for a brief moment, and although he was still weak, he was aware of his surroundings. A nurse who had been keeping a close eye on him described how, at first, he appeared confused, as if he was trying to figure out where he was. But then his eyes fell on his mother, and I swear, there was recognition there. The news spread like wildfire, and family members hurried to his bedside, tears streaming down their faces. His daughter, who had been too young to comprehend the gravity of the situation, was finally permitted to see him, and she held his hand. The physicians who had been bracing the family for the worst now had a different message, whispering, "Daddy, wake up." Although he is still in danger, there is hope, because one of them reported that his vitals are stabilizing. If this continued progress, even though this news was encouraging, there was still a significant barrier preventing Scrappy from fully recovering. His body was weak, and his road to recovery would be lengthy and uncertain. In the midst of all of this, tensions within his family and inner circle were starting to rise. And while everyone was celebrating Scrappy's progress, not everyone was in agreement about what should happen next. His medical team had a strict recovery plan in mind, but some family members had different ideas. M, who has always had a significant impact on Scrappy's life, felt that spirituality should be the main focus of his recovery because it is a miracle, and we must treat it as such. She'd informed the family that she had already contacted a number of pastors and spiritual healers to warn them to be involved in the process. But Bambi wasn't having it and wanted a solely medical method. He needs science, rehabilitation, and professional care. This isn't the time for experiments. Although Scrappy's close friends had their own worries, some of them thought that once he recovered, he intended to cut out certain people from his life who had only brought drama and negativity. If he survives this, he needs a fresh start. She argued that their argument turned into a heated exchange that almost resulted in an all-out confrontation right there in the hospital. After hearing one of his longtime friends say, "No more toxic energy," there was the matter of Scrappy himself. He was barely conscious at the moment, but as he began to regain his strength, he had to make decisions about his future. Would he follow his mother's advice, make amends with Bambi, or choose a completely different course that no one could see coming? There was no doubt that this story was far from over. Even though Scrappy's condition had improved and the doctors were now cautiously optimistic, the battle for control over his recovery was intensifying behind the scenes. His mother, Mama D, his estranged wife, Bambi, and his close friends all had different ideas about what was best for him. As Scrappy slowly regained consciousness, he was about to wake up to a storm of drama that had been building in his absence. In the early hours of the morning, something happened that left everyone in shock. Scrappy, who had barely been able to keep his eyes open the day before, suddenly found his voice. It was weak, barely above a whisper, but when he spoke, the entire room froze. In the meantime, Mama D, who had been sitting by his side for hours, appeared to have recently been slapped as the tension in the room increased. When she heard his voice, Bambi, who had been outside in the hallway, hurried in. "I'm right here," she murmured, tears already running down her cheeks, and she took his hand, gripping it fiercely. "I'm here, Scrap. I'm here." Scrappy's eyes opened, and for the first time since his condition deteriorated, He appeared to be completely aware of his surroundings. However, the moment was brief. As everyone left, he muttered, his voice hoarse, but his words were clear. "I need to talk to Bambi alone." A heavy silence descended upon the room, and Mama D's face darkened. She had been by his side every day, fighting for him without giving up. And now the first thing he wanted was to be by himself with Bambi. Unwillingly, everyone walked out of the room, but not before Mama D threw Bambi a slap. "Scrappy darling, I believe we showed no mama," he interrupted, his voice a little harsher this time. Prior to Scrappy's hospitalization, his relationship with Bambi had been tense, with rumors circulating about arguments, betrayals, and even possible infidelity. She didn't trust Bambi after everything that had transpired between them, and she wasn't the only one who had concerns. Others said that Bambi had already moved on, but now that Scrappy was fighting for his life, none of that seemed to matter. When she saw him weak and vulnerable, all of her anger and resentment vanished, and she realized she still loved him. However, did he feel the same way in the hospital room? Scrappy took a long breath, squirming a little from the agony. His body was weak, but his mind was more acute than ever. "I believed I was done since he acknowledged that notion don't mention that," Bambi murmured. "You scared me, Scrap. You scared all of us." Scrappy glanced at her. "You scared me, Scrap. You scared all of us. I wouldn't wake up. I'm not sure what will happen next, but I need to know whether we're done." Scrappy glanced at her, his eyes full of something she couldn't quite interpret. Bambi's breath caught. She had been asking herself the same question for days prior to this, and she had been positive that their marriage was over. Now, however, things felt different. "I don't know," she said, "but I just know that I don't want to lose you." But before Scrappy could reply, the door exploded open, and Mama D rushed back into the room. She became irate because she would not allow Bambi to take charge of the issue. Mama D laughed coldly. "Oh, now you care? Where was all this energy when you all were tearing each other apart before he got sick? Where was all this love when you were out doing God knows what? Scratchy baby, you need rest. You don't need stress. And you definitely don't need to be dealing with this right now." Bambi clenched her fists, but before she could fight back, she said, "I've been here just as much as you have." Determined, muttered, "Can't you guys stop doing this now?" Both women were silent, but there was a lot of animosity in the air. Outside the room, Scrappy's close friends were also becoming involved. Some of them were supporting Mama D, thinking that Bambi was only there because of the attention Scrappy's condition had brought. Others thought Mama D was being controlling, refusing to accept that her son had a life of his own. Meanwhile, just when things couldn't get any more chaotic, another unexpected visitor showed up, someone no one knew. Just as the tension between Bambi and Mama D was at its highest, the hospital door opened, revealing a face no one had anticipated. Scrappy's ex-girlfriend and the mother of his first child, Erica Dixon, practically lit up when Em saw her. "Now, this is the woman who really has his back," she said loudly enough for Bambi to hear. Bambi rolled her eyes, but Erica ignored them both and walked right past the drama to enter Scrappy's room. Scrappy looked up at her, his face flashing with surprise. "What are you doing? I heard that you were in poor health, and I wasn't going to leave my daughter's father to face this alone." So Erica folded her arms here. Scrappy sighed. He hadn't spoken to Erica in months, but he secretly wasn't shocked that she showed up. No matter how tumultuous their past was, she always managed to show up when it mattered. "Thank you," he said simply outside the room, while Bambi was furious. "Oh, so now she cares," she muttered under her breath. "Mama." Unlike some people, Erica's family has always been a war zone, and Scrappy was caught in the middle. As his strength gradually returned, it became evident that this was only the beginning of a whole new battle. Scrappy lay in his hospital bed, his mind racing despite his exhaustion, his body still weak, but the chaos around him was stronger than ever. His mind was already racing with a new concern. Would he ever be able to perform again? Could he return to making music? Or was this the beginning of the end for his time in the industry? In Erica's, Bambi was barely controlling her rage, and in the midst of it all, Scrappy found himself questioning everything. "Scrap, you don't have to worry over this right now," said Mama T, who was practically celebrating by acting like Erica and rekindling tensions that had never really gone away. Softly ignoring the gaze from the hallway, she had taken up a chair next to him and concentrated on getting better. Scrappy was scratching his forehead, and I'm not sure what better looks like. Now, he was discussing more than just his health. He was discussing his life, wife, family, and profession, all of which seemed to be on the verge of collapse. After finally becoming tired of waiting outside, Bambi returned to the room and said forcefully, "We need to talk," fixing her gaze on Scrappy's. Erica arched her brow but remained motionless. Bambi said, Mama D, who was pacing the doorway, grinned as if she was anticipating a fight by herself. Erica looked at Scrappy. "You want me to leave?" Scrappy paused and then nodded slightly to her, saying, "Yeah, let me take care of this." Erica got up and moved by Bambi. Bambi gave her a knowing glance as she walked away, but she chose to ignore it, since she didn't want to let Erica or Mama D turn this into another power battle. Instead, she sat down on the edge of Scrappy's bed, her mood softening. "Scrap, do you even want me here?" she asked. "Because of the way your mom has been acting and the way Erica just walks in here like she still belongs in your life?" Scrappy scowled and asked, "What kind of question is that?" "A real one." He exhaled slowly, noting how complicated everything had gotten and how he and Bambi had been on the verge of calling it quits before his health scare. But she was here now, showing him affection just when he needed it most. He said, "I don't know what's going to happen with us, but I do know that your presence here means something." Bambi bit her lip, but was that enough? Before Scrappy could respond, the door suddenly flew, revealing one of his best pals. "We have a problem." Diamond looked anxious and panted. "What now?" Scrappy moaned. Diamond paused, then said, "Load the label." When Scrappy asked, "What about them?" "They're talking about replacing you, Scrap," she responded. "But they don't know if you'll be able to bounce back. And they are already looking for someone else because they don't want to take any chances." A thick quiet descended upon the group as Bambi turned to face Scrappy, panic flashing in her eyes. "They can't do that," she said. "You're not even out of the hospital yet." Diamond sighed business. "Don't wait, Bambi," she said. "They need to know if Scrappy's going to be able to perform again, and right now, they're not so sure." Scrappy tightened his jaw and said, "I need to talk to them." He had worked too hard and fought too long to let it all go, and now his music was more than just his career, it was his identity. Diamond shook her head, but not in agreement. If the label believed that Scrappy was finished, he had to prove them wrong with a grunt. He began to sit up, wincing from the pain, but Bambi quickly put a hand on his chest and stopped him. "Scrap, you're not ready. I don't have a choice. If I don't fight for my spot, they'll take it from me." Ain't anybody? Mama D, who had been listening in, entered the room with fire in her eyes. Bambi rolled her eyes as she said, "I'll call up those fools myself if I have to, in place of my son. This and a shattered marriage are not something you can simply fix, Mama D. But that hasn't stopped you from trying, has it?" When Mama D retaliated, Scrappy moaned, and his head began to pound. Since the argument wasn't helping, everyone fell silent and watched him intently. He spoke in a strained voice, saying, "I don't know what's going to happen with me and Bambi. I'm not sure whether the label will stay with me, but I do know that I haven't done anything yet." Bambi reached for his hand once more, squeezed it, and then fought for it, scrapping it, but doing it the right way and getting better first. Scrappy stared at her, then at his mother, and lastly at Diamond. For the first time in weeks, he felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. He hoped it wouldn't be simple. There were still challenges to overcome and people watching to see whether he could succeed. But one thing was certain: Scrappy would never give up. Although Scrappy's journey has been a roller coaster of emotions, it appears that there is finally hope after a lot of hardships. The doctors have offered hope, but the battle is far from over. Will Scrappy make a full comeback and disprove everyone? Will his music career withstand the doubts? What about his relationships? Can he really move forward without more drama? Without a doubt, this story is far from over, and we'll be here to give you every twist and turn. What do you think will happen next? Let us know in the comments section below. If you want to be informed when Scrappy's recovery is updated again, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and enable notifications.